I've got an Acer monitor that I use on my server that I run here at the house, and one day it stopped working. I had had it powered on for the better part of the last 10 years, and obviously something like that puts off a little bit of heat. So the capacitors expanded and leaked a little bit, and so I figured I'd try my hand at repairing something like that, and ultimately was successful with it. So this is the video documentation of that, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to get right into it here. So this is an Acer LCD monitor model X193W. The manufacture date June of 2009. And I think I need to get into it. So I'm not exactly sure how to take this apart, other than I'm pretty sure I've got things back here I got to deal with. I'm not sure what this will do. Tilt, maybe? Yeah. So let's start with a pry tool. And then a four Phillips screws that hold the base on. It's got thread lock on them. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's got thread lock, but they're very easy to remove. So must have the wiggle-free variety of thread lock, not the it ain't ever coming out variety of thread lock. And I see one screw here. Could that really be the only thing that's holding it in place? Off the bottom of the screen here. Don't feel any screws there. Okay, time to do some research. Okay, I dug out my little spudger here, which I got as part of a stereo install kit for my truck, and I was able to use that to pry up underneath the cover here and start to separate it. And I know that there's several clips in here that are quite tight, and so not sure exactly how this is going to work, but it tends to pop back together as I'm prying it apart. I need a wedge. Normally I'd use a credit card in here, but my luck, I'd forget to blur it out before I publish the video. I broke a clip. Broke this clip down here. So the fact that I broke one, testament to just how difficult it is to get into this thing. There's the broken piece. Alright, a little dusty. So now I need to get this piece off. This looks like it goes off to the backlight. This looks like it goes off to the control board. And there's going to be power in there somewhere. I'm trying to carefully pull this tape up, hoping I can reuse it again if I... Yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. I can easily cut the tape, but I'd rather reuse it if I can, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to. Yeah, it's gonna go as soon as I get this off. Alright, let's see if I can get this out. And I'm trying to very carefully pull this wire harness out. There we go. And assuming this can come out up here. So this is where I believe the problem to be. So I need to take that board off. And I believe I'm going to end up finding some caps that have leaked. See a lot of heat discoloration right through there. And as a matter of fact, it looks like the PCB itself is bent. Okay, I did manage to get this board out, and I don't know if you can see it. I will zoom in, but you can see the domes of capacitors that are not good anymore. Yep, definitely leaky capacitors. I'm going to collect the numbers of all of these capacitors, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and replace them all. That way I'm in here once, I get it taken care of, and then I should hopefully get my monitor back. This tape I cut through on the side here and up here on the top, it looks like just simple HVAC tape that they would use to seal ducts. So I think I'm going to be okay with that. Just putting that back on. That's the only thing, literally that's the only thing that's holding this piece in place, which supports this is where the stand connects to. So the only thing holding the monitor to this is literally HVAC tape, aluminum tape. Anyway, let me see if I can collect some part numbers, and then I will order replacement capacitors. So this is the power board for my monitor that I've been working on, and I finally do have the replacement capacitors for fixing this thing up. So I'm going to make an effort to do that today. You can see here, and I'm not sure exactly how well the camera's picking it up. This capacitor has leaked a little bit. This capacitor has leaked a little bit. And then I've got three more, this one, and this one, which are starting to bubble up a little bit. This one, while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and replace it at the same time. I do not have the replacements for these two, so I'm going to hold off on doing anything with those. But if I feel those, they do not feel like they've actually bubbled up at all. Neither does this one or any of these other relatively small ones. My goal today is, and I'm going to start with this particular one, my goal today is to desolder these, find and identify the appropriate replacement for each of these capacitors, and then solder a new one in. Watch me make mistakes now, because I'm not certain I'm going to, but I'm certain I'm probably going to. So this dot here, on each of these capacitors, it is associated with the negative stripe on the capacitor itself. I'll lift the board here, and you can see the negative stripe here, and then the dot. And each of these have a similar marking if I point them out here. And so you can even get down in here and you can see all of them. My goal is to make sure that I don't screw this up, and I will have to go back and double check before I apply power. But my hope is that I get this cleaned up today, such that I can actually reinstall this back into the monitor and potentially actually have that work again. So I'm going to start with this capacitor here, and I have to get the soldering iron warmed up for that. I'm likely going to need some solder, and I might even need some flux, and I've got a brand new solder sucker that I'm going to try out on this just to see if I can make this work a little bit better. I'll probably have to add some solder to this so that I can freshen that joint up, if you will, and then I'll use the solder sucker to try to pull it out. And I may have to even try to stabilize this board a little bit. While I'm waiting, let me collect the supplies I need. No, that does not appear to have worked. Let's try that again. Let me get some wick too. Wow, okay. So let's see here. Now I've got it close. There it is. Ah, I got one. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I was able to wiggle that out, so that's a good thing. This is a 330 microfarad. Let me see if I can get the zoom working here. 330 microfarad, 35 volt. 330 microfarad, 35 volt. So I am replacing with the same. And again, the negative stripe has to go where the negative stripe is supposed to go. And then I should be able to twist these back and have that held in place to the point where I can add some solder here. And I believe I've got probably quite a bit of mass here I have to warm up. That is why it's taking such a tough time to and I'm holding this here for a little bit extended period of time to make sure I get a good connection, a good electrical connection that is. That looks like it's gonna work. Get my handy dandy clippers here, and these are flat trimmers, and I should be able to just nip these right at the base down there, right where the solder joint is, and it is as good as new, it looks like. Well, that's one down. Next up is going to be this one. And its location is these two pins. Now let me get a Sharpie here because the way my luck is, I'm going to miss that or something. So let's see here. Again, I've got quite a bit of mass I'm dealing with, so there's a lot to heat up here. Where is this relative to what you're looking at? So I'm going to add a little bit of fresh solder here. And then once that warms up enough, I will see what I can. Well, actually, I probably want to use the sucker here. Need some fresh solder braid. It is not coming up. I am having trouble with this one, so let's see if I can suck more of this solder out. Let's try this side and see if I can get any better over here. Again, that looks like just a lot of mass of copper to have to heat up on both sides of this. I'm trying to get the solder into or onto the existing solder to try to provide some heat transfer. And I'm blocking it, I know. Yep, that is not coming out. Alright, let me zoom back out a little bit here. See if I can get that solder blob off first. So I'm looking at these, and it just is not coming. Let's try 690 Fahrenheit. See if the extra temperature there might help. Close, I got one of them free. I think that's gonna pop off now. Yep. So this is the same 330 microfarad, 35 volts. And once again, with my dot in place, I now know where I'm trying to put this. The minus goes where the minus is supposed to go. And then I bend these so that I can apply some solder. And I'm going to put some flux on that as well. Actually, I'm going to clean it with some alcohol first. Get my black marks off there. Now, some flux. Flux is alcohol based as well. Okay, so those two are good. Next step is this one. And again, my pen. This is the one I'm working on. Back. I'm going to be doing any more of this work, I'm going to have to take out stock and desolder braid. Might have one free. I do have one free. Just touch that pad. There it is. And again, this is a 330-35. Now that one seemed to go a lot easier. So we'll have to see how that goes. Minus towards the dot there. So far, I have remembered to check every time, so that's good. And then again, flux in here. And then I should be able to flow. Okay, next step is going to be this one. Actually, let's do the one that's a little bit farther in. Let's do this one. So, wow. Okay, I didn't even get that seated right, and it sucked it all right back up. I have to show you. I'm getting some bits of solder coming back out. That may come right out now. Not quite. I've got that side is almost free. That's out. Another 330. And once again, make sure the minus is towards that white dot. Again, some more flux, just to get it to go to the right spot. Next up are these two, this one in particular, and that's here. And I don't know, but I feel like I've got somewhat of a routine here that's working for me. Let's not break routine. See, how did that work? Almost have it. Got a little bit more on this leg here that I am going to pull off with. Oh man, it's off camera. I hate it when I do that. Okay, so I have one that is loose, one that's not. There it is. Okay, so now this one is, let me zoom in here for you. 1000 microfarad, 16 volts. 1000 microfarad, 16 volts. Big dang capacitor. All right, so once again, the minus goes where the dot is. And again, I'm going to tilt these down. A little bit of flux in here. And then it's just a matter of finding the end of my solder and applying some fresh solder in here. Clean tip. Fresh solder. I'll let that flow down into that through hole. And then over here as well. And then snip and I am off camera again. Alright, let's try that again. You can see that doesn't appear to be melting anything, but if I add some solder such that it flows around that pin a little bit, the heat conducts and melts that other solder. And now I think I need to actually take some of this up. That's not good. That's not how that's supposed to go. This one is still very fastened. So let's try again. Okay, there it is. That one gave up a little bit more of a fight, and I'm not sure I can get the other one back in. So let's clean that up a little bit. See if I can get some of the solder out of these holes. Okay, so this is another 1000 microfarad. And once again, yep, I've got it lined up right. Now I'm going to zoom out here because it's interesting that this desolder sucker left quite a bit of debris on my surface here, because as I would push down, it would actually sometimes pop out solder that it had previously sucked up. With these 6 replaced, I have, well, I don't want to say high hopes, but I have hopes that I am going to be able to get this monitor working again. Okay, let me see how much of this I can reassemble. The first thing is I've got to get this tucked back up here onto this wire harness. This right now is just laid in place, and so I need to get the screws in. And the question is which one. So I've got 4 screws but 5 holes, so I've got to figure out which screws go where. Always go with just the 4 corners, but there's a stress point here. You definitely want one here. And then this thing somehow tucks into here to hold this in place. And that's there to relieve stress. Question is exactly how does this go? Kind of thinking it might go like this. And that would make sense to have it pivot right up over this thing and then lock in place down here. Would not make sense to go like this. That makes more sense. Doing this off screen again, but I just am not finding how this pops back into place. That sits proud more than anything else. Of course, I could always just stop the video and check my prior footage. Check my prior footage. There it is. I figured it out. Alright, so let me put this back down, and then this slides in like this over top of those 2 pins, and then it should snap in place right there just as it has. So once again, put some screws in, and I'm gonna have to go get a screwdriver to finish this up. Amazingly enough, as I look at the prior footage, this is the one that does not have the screw in it, right down here in the corner. So that's the one I leave open. This is the one I place the screw in. Right. Now I need some kind of a screw driving implement. Okay, well, I've got an overly long screwdriver here, but this will work. Now this is the flat panel. This is the bottom of it. And interestingly enough, when I place this here, I can hook this back up. I believe it's keyed to go one way. This is going to slide right in here. This is going to help me align it because it sits just like that, just like that. And then I've got red, white, blue, black. And then red, white, blue, black again. So that'll fold over there. There's that. There's that. Literally now all I need to do is get some tape so that I can tape this thing back. So while this supports the entire monitor, the only thing holding the panel to this is a bunch of metal tape, literally, which is the stuff you find in an HVAC system to make it airtight. I am going to have to get some metal tape to put here and clean up these little bits and this little bit so that I can get a good connection. I don't know what kind of connection we're talking about here, but make sure that we've got a good adhesion just so it will hang properly, quite frankly. Okay, the last thing to do here is going to be to try to reattach this control module to the flat panel. And before they had metal tape here to do that, kind of like an aluminum tape. I went and I bought some stuff for water heaters and the like. Now, if I look through this, it doesn't look particularly strong, but we'll see how this works out. This is going to be a trial by fire here, I think. So I'm just going to place this right here. Can't push down too super hard because I don't want to put pressure on the flat panel. And my head's in the way, but I'm going to try to cut this piece off and then push that down so that it doesn't move. Yeah, I probably should say, before I got started, I wanted to make sure that this all lined up. So I set this here, and then down here I made sure that the screw holes underneath the cover lined up with the screw holes for the cover so that that's in the right spot. Now this may likely have all the right tensile strength here. And then I'm just going to snip this right here. And then again, just lay it down so that it makes good contact. Not too much pressure that it cracks the LCD underneath. Once again over here, whoops. And again, I'm going to snip this. I believe I can tear it once I get it started. That's actually holding pretty well. I'm frankly quite shocked about it. Now, hopefully, try to do this. I want to slide this under here. Get that on top there. It's not perfectly straight, but I believe it'll do. And then this side's going to be even more difficult. And I could make an effort to pull these. But it's not going to work well. Let's see here. Tools, Adam, tools. All right, let's just see if I can squeeze this under. All right, forgive my head again. That's working out pretty good if I can keep it in focus without my shoulder making a mess of everything. Snip here. And then make a snip here. And then I should be putting this down. Okay, that should give me, actually holding on pretty darn good, so And I should be able to get the bezel back on. I'm just kind of going around and snapping the cover back into place here and all the different edges. Now there is one screw that goes right here. And then pulling this back to the edge, the base gets attached here with screws. This is where I find out if I got it all lined up right. It's just off the screen there. First screw went in, that's good. Second screw went in, so I expect all four to go. And then it's tap that in, tap that in, and now I just put it back into production. I say production. I put it back where it belongs and hook it back up again and turn it on. And there it is, working perfectly, sitting right next to the Remington. I'm happy to have that fixed.